Hello, what's up? Bax here, and I'm going to be starting this series. Actually, going to be the first of a continuing series of games with other players who are going to give their own perspectives and thoughts as we work through different angles of Star Realms to kind of give a larger group of the community the ability to see what different top players are kind of using as their guidelines for making decisions in the game, which is one of the most volatile aspects of the game. With me today is somebody whose voice you may be familiar with from the Mega Holland podcast. It is none other than TheeMystic, Dustin Clingman. What's up, dude?
Hey, what's up, Bax? It is awesome to be here with you. I intend to scrap my scouts all the way to victory tonight.
Perfect. I think that's a really good choice. That's for sure. We are going to be. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be playing in the core set. We're going to be playing the base game here, and we're going to be talking through all our decisions. You will hear probably. Even at cost of revealing something, because it's really important to see all the things that are going on behind the scenes when we're actually trying to make decisions about the game. And this is by no means saying that we are better than anyone else, because I am quite sure that I am. If you watch the stream at all, you'll notice that everybody beats me. But in the core set here, this is just us talking through our perspective. So I hope it is going to help. And this is a continuing series that we will have moving forward. Do you have any starting thoughts on core set when you see that core set is what you're playing versus all these other expansions? What's like the first thing that might pop into your head?
Well, fond memories. I think I've probably played more of the core set, aka vanilla, than any other version of the game. If I look at my lifetime games in both the digital app and then, the digital community is awesome, but I play and have played a tremendous number of the core offline games in the card form. So I've got a lot of experience in this mode. I've suffered the fate from the RNG,
of course,
and
yes.
I've had my highs, I've had my lows. So it's I look at this vanilla and core set with a lot of fondness.
Sure, yeah, and hopefully, how you kind of mentioned all those different archetypes of the game that can happen. Hopefully, we see all those different archetypes as we play through this series, and everybody can kind of get an idea of the sample size, the sample set, if you will, of the different games that are probably going to happen when you're playing core set, and what you can do to kind of try to make adjustments moving forward into the game. I have sent out the first challenge to you as well.
I see it's here, and on that point, really, one of the best things that you can do, obviously, card selection is going to be really important. But just understanding what kind of game you're in is going to be a huge lift to finding, a path to victory. So I'm looking forward to playing some games and talking this through.
Yep, it's going to be good. Right now, according to the Pro Star Realms, I am 5-8 against Mr. TheeMystic, and hopefully we can try to bring that a little bit closer to 50%. That'd be great.
I did notice you wanted to play a precise number of games that might let you have a winning record against.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's ridiculous. Fake news. I don't know.
Yeah, fake news. Okay, geez. Well, I am ready to accept your challenge when you are ready, sir.
Let's make it happen. Let's do it. Let's head into game number 1.
Oh, looks like you're going to go first.
And do we already have some interesting decisions here or what? So we got, I do have 3 scouts, which was fortunate. 2 scouts would make this decision a little bit easier for me. So worth knowing that trade pod on the right side is what I'm eyeballing. Survey ship, I can see some people taking that from time to time. But survey ship here just seems to be a little bit weaker of a card, at least for what I would be considering. I don't think survey ship is as bad as people think. I don't think it's as bad because it is a cantrip and it can faction a lot of these secondary abilities. But here, like, if I have these 2 scouts, I could take an explorer on the left side and get rid of it later, and that's actually what I'm sure you remember when Homer Jr. posted the information about TradePod actually losing more games that it's taken in than winning games. But I think that may need a bigger sample size. I'm not entirely sure. I like the TradePod here, 3 trade. Start our economy up early, and even though we do have this scout that does not do anything, it's still worth it to take that economy early. We do have a missile mech at least, so something big is out there to go for.
Okay, yeah, I like that, and I definitely observed that move. Now, so I have 3 scouts and 2 vipers, so I'm starting with the turn 2 Coker.
There you go.
And I think obviously scrap is really important in the vanilla game. I'm really hoping, though, right now that you don't have 4 scouts, which the odds of you having 3 then 3 are actually higher than most people would like to admit. So I'm hoping that you don't have 4 to get that Blob Destroyer. But so I'm going to go ahead here, throw down my damage, punch in the face, and because scrap is so critical here, I'm going to take the supply bot and hope I free up something terrible. Whoa! The command ship.
Well, we have a bomb. So we do have a bomb, and if you do hear bomb being used, that is people usually use that to refer to a high cost, high damage, very potent card. There are even, some 7-cost cards certainly could be considered bombs. And I don't know, sometimes I see Battle Blob up on the board, and some people will toss bomb as a title on that because it can scrap out for 12. But this is a bomb. Bombs hit the board. This means that economy is important. Or this is something like undercutting. Undercutting is a concept that I tend to go for more often than not, maybe much to my demise, but basically giving up the race and then going for other cards that you think will equal more damage and end the game. There's an opportunity to do that here. I have 4 scouts, as you mentioned. Yep. And we have a Blob Destroyer in the middle. A Blob Destroyer in the middle here is something that I'm thinking about because it is 6 damage, and you have the lead here in the scrap. But at the same time, you having 5 gives me another kind of an opportunity here. I could give you Blob Destroyer and potentially let you waste one of your trade, which would even up our trade usage through our first deck cycle. Or you would end up taking maybe Survey Ship and an Explorer, maybe 2 Explorers. But if I leave the Blob Destroyer, I still have an Imperial Frigate and a Survey Ship here to try to match that damage. Right now our damage is actually even. Because we've both taken cards that don't do damage unless they're faction. So I actually am going to take 2 Explorers here, especially because that high cost card did appear on the right side. It's going to increase my reach, and maybe I can get lucky enough to grab it.
Yeah, wow, that's interesting. So yeah, man. So yeah, wow. Okay, so you really kind of stuck me here with something. The other side of this with the Blob Destroyer is now less useful to me. This is the kind of game we were talking about. It's an archetype, right? So we basically at this point have a race to the command ship. The player who gets the command ship is going to get a huge percentage bump in a win, in winning this game. So right now you have very little damage, but you have a lot of cards that can lead to economy. So I can try to prevent you from getting that by causing you to discard with an Imperial Frigate and punching at you a little bit. I can try to accelerate my deck and get the scrap going with the Survey Ship, which I also agree is not as bad a card as most people believe. There's a lot of risk, even if you don't get the command ship, of turning up something else powerful.
Sure.
So this is a little bit tricky, but I think under these circumstances, I still have to not completely count myself out of the bomb race. So I'm going to go with Survey Ship. And thankfully, I left you a piece of crap. So the Royal Redoubt, which is a great card, but not in this case. It's not the best card in this context. Sure. And we'll move on and see what happens.
Why did you take Survey Ship first?
Why did I take Survey Ship
instead of, like, say, taking the Explorer first with 2 and then taking the Survey Ship?
Well, I took the Survey Ship first because there's a chance that I might have turned up a Cutter. And a Cutter is one of the best cards in vanilla. I might have turned up a Missile Mech. I might have turned up something that helps accelerate my scrap strategy, which is still going to be a big part of my attempt to win this game.
Right.
So buying the Survey Ship first lets me see what's under there. If I had bought the Explorer and I had turned up a great card, I would have missed that chance.
Yes, and that's something that sometimes if I do get a random queue against a player that maybe, just starting out under level 5, somewhere around there, sometimes I will see those buys where they do buy the thing that may not reveal, and then by the reveal is a missile bot or a cutter or a ram or something that they could have purchased. Alas, the other player gets that card. So always be sure to keep your eye on that. Okay, I'm finally gonna take the dive. We already have a trade pod. Blob Destroyer is going to do 6 damage for 4 costs, which is an incredible value for that card. I am going to take the first strike into damage, and hopefully that's going to hopefully that's going to help me by having that in my deck this early. But I still don't have a scrap card, which is still worrisome to me.
Okay, so that makes perfect sense to me. So one of your Explorers is out, which makes me a little more comfortable. Looking here, though, you can get nothing but economy. So all you need to do here is to get your trade pod and your explorer, and you will have 8, which lets you buy the command ship next turn. The odds of that are, well, you're going to draw 5 cards, so I won't try to calculate the odds of this, but understand for those who are listening to this that it is calculable. We actually can calculate the likelihood of you drawing both of those cards.
Right.
And then all the scouts are gimmies because the scouts all contribute to that. So basically, at this point, if you've got 8, you take a huge leap forward in the game because you've just bought that Blob Destroyer. You can start taking cards away from me. You can start taking bases away from me, and you're going to be punishing me while gaining life. And you've got like a 9-point swing with the command ship. So
definitely, yeah.
So I have to try to figure out a way to hope that you don't have it, but also continue to give myself a chance to compete here. So I think at this point, the best play for me, given that there's a lot of yellow here, is probably to take the space station. So I'm going to take the space station here. Now, this is an interesting thing. Blob Fighter is here. I have 1 remaining, and I have 1 Viper. So if I wanted to, I could take this. The interesting thing here, Sam, is that if you've got 8, you're definitely buying the command ship, so you'll leave the fighter. So there's no question about that.
Right.
If I take the fighter and you don't have 8, I might be accelerating your path into something else.
Right.
So I might give you a big 6-cost blob carrier, or something else that helps you top deck that command ship at a later point in time. So
sure.
Even though I've got the economy here, I'm going to pass on taking that blob fighter and see what happens from here.
So kind of to simplify what you're saying, it's like the idea of the hate draft, right? You're trying to gauge whether you should take that to deny it to me, or whether you leave it knowing that I'm going to take command ship if I get the trade, right?
Yeah. If you have it right now, you have it. And so now, yeah, I don't want to help you get any further. Looks like you got it.
Oh, you got so close. Okay, so what? So I don't have it, but it was very interesting to hear all those thoughts, knowing I didn't have it, and kind of thinking about it. Now, I think I would be very remiss if I didn't take one of these 6-cost cards. Looking at the board, looking at the fact that he did just take a space station, which is a great ladder card as well, scrapping out for that 4, which is halfway towards the most expensive cards in the game, like the command ship on the right side. At least most expensive cards in the game to this point. We do have the Blob Fighter left there, and this is good for me with 7. I do feel more comfortable taking the Missile Mech. Missile Mech is just 6 damage. It's raw damage. I don't want him to have it. If he ends up taking the Royal Redoubt, that's fine. I have a base that counters it. If he gets a space station up and doesn't scrap it, I have a chance. Like, I'm going to make him more nervous to want to scrap out the space station, having that Missile Mech in my deck. So I am going to take the Missile Mech just for that fact. I already took the Blob Destroyer for the same reason. Raw damage. This is going to increase that. And another space station actually flips. That's okay. That worries me, because what's better than 1 space station ladder card going for an 8-cost card? 2 space stations going for an 8-cost card.
Yes.
I will take the Blob Fighter, but I really, really don't like... Okay, we have another one actually pop up. So Blob Wheel kind of does the same thing too.
Okay, so finally, thankfully, I did not completely bottom deck my supply bot, so I throw him down. Hey, survey ship, replace yourself. So I have 6, and one of the things that you didn't mention here about the Missile Mech, which is it's one of my favorite cards in vanilla. It's a 2-for-1. So it does 6 damage plus whatever damage would be required to get rid of an outpost. So it really makes the Royal Redoubt a little less interesting to me. I will say that, the fact that you can 2-for-1 it is rough. But the truth is, like, causing you to discard right now is only helpful if I'm trying to keep you off the command ship. And I think you're going to be in good condition. You're going to have good conditions to either get rid of it with the Blob Destroyer or buy it yourself. So trying to force you into some kind of discard race really doesn't help me right now. So I think. So the interesting thing about this is the Blob Wheel fits better into your strategy, but it also soaks more and does almost as much trade as the space station. I'm buying the space station here really as a throwaway. The fact that it partners up with the survey ship is kind of just like nice.
Right.
That's just a nice function.
Right.
So
yes.
I think what I'm going to do here is take the Blob Wheel, to block you from that. Turns up a cutter, which I will thank you take. and then I will waste a couple of trade, but I've gotten a crap card out of my scrapped a crap card out of my deck now, and the whole world's turned up yellow. What do you know?
What do you know? All the Star Empire, man. And that's a interesting point you make about calling it like a throwaway card. A lot of times in the core set, like for Space Station and for Blob Wheel, those cards are taken. I find rarely are they taken for their actual abilities, especially the Blob Wheel. I mean, it does 1 damage, right? But they either are taken to faction, other cards in the same faction, or the number 1 most used ability is please give me the trade to get rid of you. That seems to be the number 1 use for these cards, and that's something that a lot of newer players start to catch on with cards like the Space Station Blob Wheel and the Ram, where you are able to get rid of them to get a huge spike. Here I do have 6, and with 6 trade, I need... So in the instance, you might miss Command Ship. It's probably not likely. You have a lot of trade. You have draw. I really doubt. Every card you have actually gives you trade. Every single card you've purchased so far gives you trade. Not the case for me. I've already made the pivot to damage. So that makes me right now have to make a decision. I know you're going to get Command Ship here. I'm just going to kind of like write that into my brain. And I'm going to say, well, if he has Command Ship, what can I do against that? Well, he also took a cutter. That's going to be pretty difficult for me to combat. But maybe there is this opportunity for me to do something a little bit interesting. So if you're going to go for Command Ship, or maybe Royal Redoubt, you probably aren't going to take that Imperial Frigate on the left side. I'm going to start by taking the Corvette here. The Corvette is the common denominator between me taking the Imperial Frigate or the Space Station. I will then fill out with a Corvette. It leaves me 4. It does flip a Hive. Hive is good for me, and kind of good for you, but better for me. So that's a card that you're now a little bit concerned about, which is great. I want you to be concerned about more than the Command Ship. I am going to take the Space Station, and I'm going to scrap out this Explorer pretty early. I'm doing that as a replacement for, if I feel weird taking these 2 cards and bogging my deck down when you have a lead on scrap, I'm getting rid of an Explorer to kind of make up for that, or at least to try to start to make up for that. Because if I'm going to win this game right now, knowing that you're probably getting Command Ship, I'm going to have to do a lot of damage. I'm going to have to do it as quick as possible.
Okay. All right. I will activate my supply bot. Nothing in my trade, so I will scrap out a scout, just like I promised at the top of the broadcast. I have 5. I'm actually... So what's interesting here is that I'm actually... conceding that you will remove the Command Ship with the Blob Destroyer. So I might get it, but I'm planning for the after that. And I can't let you get the Hive. I can deal with you cycling, and I can deal with you chucking away the Space Station, but I can't afford to have to also remove the Hive. So I'm going to take that and basically make sure I'm in position to maximize what may come. And there's the mothership.
Mothership comes up. What do you know? Now, that's... So, it almost... And for you here, is there any chance that you're thinking now, after taking the Hive, that you might not be as interested in getting rid of something like the Blob Wheel, that you might consider leaving that out if the Missile Mech or the Blob Destroyer doesn't hit it?
Yeah, because if I have both of them out at the same time, you'll hit one of them with your Missile Mech, and then you'll have to damage the other to get rid of it. And you'll need to do that because otherwise I'll get an extra draw each turn. So, yeah, I would definitely like leave those babies hanging out.
So here, Imperial Frigate is the one that uses up my trade. I have 3 trade, 8 damage. Unfortunately, the Imperial Frigate does not faction a Blob Destroyer, which after you've taken another base, and this base is not one you can scrap out. This is a base that will be out. This leads me to probably look at draw. That is that secondary ability of drawing cards on the Blob Fighter and trying to get my deck to cycle. The Imperial Frigate does not help cycle my deck without getting rid of the card. It is my favorite card in the game, but it needs to show up when it needs to show up. And right now, not quite. It's close, though. It's very close. They're still incredibly expensive cards. We have a 5, a 6, a 7, and an 8 cost card on the board. What I'm going to do is take an Explorer and cycle an Explorer. I'm just going to exchange them. Basically, I'm making sure I don't miss out on 2 damage I could have earlier in the game while keeping my deck the same size. And then we're going to basically cross our fingers and hope that you don't get the command ship.
Yeah, man. So that's tricky. Well, fortunately, the space station's in my hand, and the survey ship happens to kind of combo up with that. Yeah, bad news, bad news, and bad news in Baxville.
Sure, yeah.
So I will go ahead, and I know you've got the cards to basically take it out next turn. So I will go through here, throw away the Explorer. Got an interesting conundrum here to think about. You've invested now a little bit in yellow. I know you like that other card from the frigate. Do I want to accelerate my scrap? I've only scrapped out 2 cards, and now I've just added draw 1, draw 2, draw 3. By the way, one thing I think that I will say that I do is look at the total number of cards that I have that draw. So what's the total number of draws? And then try to figure out how many hands it will take me to get through my deck, assuming that I don't get unlucky. So I think about it that way because I think it's really valuable as a way to think about how fast your deck is becoming. So my deck is becoming very quickly, obviously because of the command ship, but the fact that I've got the survey ship there as well. So that means that maybe I don't need to worry about taking that missile bot. I do want to take this Imperial frigate. I'll do some damage here. Now, there's a question here. Is my deck fast enough? In other words, if you only have the fighter and the trade pod, you'll draw into the Blob Destroyer. So I guess you're not going to be forced into an uncomfortable draw here either way. So I will not force a discard, and I will just kind of pass on.
Gotcha. Yes. All right. Well,
here comes the pain.
As you just mentioned, I do have the trade pod and blob fighter, so I will draw into the Blob Destroyer, which actually is a little unfortunate. Part of me was, I mean, obviously we can look at the end of the cards and know that my total would only reach 6. There's no way I could get 7. Man, so close to that mothership, though. It makes me very, very sad. The other thing that I'm sad about is the command ship, and that cutter that popped up earlier means that ability on the command ship to destroy target base makes my potential take of like a Royal Redoubt or a Mech World far less valuable. In the instance that the command ship does not faction with the cutter, or the command ship does not hit one of my bases when it's out, if I was to take Royal Redoubt or Mech World, that's actually really good for me. That's soaking 6 damage, and looking at your deck besides the command ship, it is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 primary damage. So it soaks a large majority of that damage. Now, is that good enough? I don't know. Is the missile bot too late to take? Does it ping a missile mech draw? Like, it's kind of a tough situation for us. So what we're going to start doing is, you still have trade, and I'm still nervous about that. Will I be able to get the mothership in time? I don't know. If you have it, am I in trouble? Yes. I do know that because you have a hive. That hive being out there, can't let that happen. So we're going to get rid of the mothership to start because I can't take it, so I don't want you to have it. Trade bot pops up. So I'm going to take the missile bot, 2 damage and a faction with the missile mech in my deck. I'm looking at that not as just the scrap card, but as that faction and 2 damage potential. I'm currently thinking about pivoting my deck into a I must kill you before you kill me mode, because I think I have to kill you before you kill me. And I'm going to take this other survey ship. What this other survey ship is going to do, which is kind of strange, I think, is it's going to hit the space station, which I might not actually get rid of, depending on what I see in your deck. But it is going to hit that Corvette for 2 extra damage, and it is a cantrip. My deck doesn't actually get bigger. I'm going to leave these trade bots up here because I know you don't want them. And I kind of want to block those rows, right? So we know we have 2 lanes blocked by leaving those out, and we're on the clock. So basically, I've just kind of said I'm on the clock. If I don't kill you before you get command ship things to do stuff, I'm probably dead. So let's see what happens. Yeah.
Yep, you are right. I do not want those trade bots, and I think that this is a place where new players probably make the biggest mistake. They see cheap stuff, and they either want what's under it, or they want what they think might be there.
Sure.
So they go fishing. They clog up their deck with a bunch of cards that won't help them at this point. I would not be surprised if neither one of us made another purchase. If
Hmm.
that is the truth, then it's going to come down to the luck of the draw. If the command ship is in my next hand, I might have a decent chance to win. If not, I feel that it's unlikely that I'll be able to get another deck cycle before you kill me. My health
Hmm.
is 10 lower. You can get rid of this blob wheel easily with the missile mech or with your other damage. The blob destroyer will get rid of it automatically. So I'm leaving it out here to make you do something on the chance that you don't get it.
Hmm.
But if I don't pull a command ship in my next hand, my chances of winning this game go way down. So I will pass the turn.
And we will hope that what you said happens. We will also look at this incredible draw from Bax, this lovely space station right next to 2 scouts and 2 vipers.
Oh yeah.
So this is great because I have 4 damage and a blob wheel takes 5. So the problem here for me, this draw is very, very troubling for me due to him having the hive. And if he draws into the hive with command ship or any of his other draw cards, that hive and that blob wheel are going to be insanely annoying for me to get through. Now, do I have a blob destroyer and a missile mech that can take care of that? Yes. Does it change the fact that he gets a free draw and 4 damage cycling if I can't get rid of them? No. So here, my only thought, the only thing I'm considering here besides just doing the damage is taking Royal Redoubt or Mech World and getting rid of the space station. That's the only thing I'm considering, even at, like, no explorers, no trade bots. So the advantage of taking one of those cards, well, it's a bigger base. The disadvantage of taking those cards, they go into my discard pile, which is the bottom of a 15-card deck, which is going to take a long time to come up. And in the meantime, I have this space station out, or I get rid of my space station, so all damage is guaranteed to go through. Chances of you destroying it anyway with the command ship is pretty high, I think, here. You get to draw 2 cards if you have it in your hand, which means you have 7 cards of 10 to get command ship and cutter, assuming you draw command ship in your first 5. Is that still worth it because I know what my strategy is, and my strategy is to try to kill you before you get that going? Yes. In this situation, I don't think it's a bad play necessarily to get rid of this for the Royal Redoubt Mech World, but for me, I'm leaving it out in the chance that he has like 4 scouts and a cutter and can't kill it. That's it. I just for the chance that it blocks damage, because I am behind in scrap, I'm behind in draw, but I'm ahead in damage, and I need to get that damage out as fast as possible and to live as long as possible.
Yeah, you know what's really interesting to me is that while I was listening to you describe that, I was like, I think about the exact same thing, counting the outs, and this is something that you know, when I first started playing Star Realms, I was like, is this game all luck? Do you just get blue and green and win?
Right.
And you know, the kind of thoughts that you're going through, the calculation and the types of permutations of possibilities are the kinds of things that you consider the more and more experience that you get in this game. Now, I do have bad news for you.
Great. Perfect.
I have all the cards that I want.
Oh, perfect.
Here.
Good.
So, I mean, I'll throw down the hive here.
Oh, boy.
I just want you to know that I had all these cards to start with: the survey ship, and of course the command ship. Now, command ship and cutter is wonderful. Make you discard. Now, I'm at a point where these yellow cards are going to be interesting to me. What I have to think about is the one card I didn't draw is the survey ship, so I can scrap the frigate and actually get access to the survey ship, and I'm going to do that, and I'll explain why. Because I need to not have the supply bot working for me against my new fresh deck. It needs to get old cards out that I already have played. So
Right.
I'm going to use it here, and you know, at this point, I don't really need to buy anything. I will, however, try to offset some of the damage. I'm not out of the clear here on this subject yet. Let me get rid of that base. Turns of a freighter. I'm not worried about the freighter. I'm going to let you do your best against my 2 bases there, and what comes will come.
Right.
So do your darndest.
I will do my worst, and my worst will be starting with a scout, an explorer, a trade pod, and a blob fighter. So maybe we can draw into something. We draw into missile bots. That's great. So this is a bit underwhelming. to say the least, as far as all the cards I would want. Does it mean I have a very good chance of having a pretty powerful hand next time? Yes. Do I live until then? Probably not. But if we're looking at his deck is very, very light as far as the amount of cards that are actually going to hit hard. It relies almost exclusively on Commandship to do a lion's share of the work, but he has 3 bases, and I have to be able to do the damage to get through them. Otherwise, they're just going to kind of build a wall, and no one can be able to do anything about it. The other poor thing for me here is, 9 damage is not enough to take out both those bases. Obviously, the Hive is the one I am going to want to get rid of, so we will take out the Hive. To disallow that draw, we'll do 4 damage through, 28 to 19. Do I want to take Mechworld? Mechworld's the only thing I would want late game. These cards, I could take them, but no, they're just slowing my deck down. I have to try to win. I'm not going to take Mechworld. I'm going to let that ride, and I'm going to hope that my next hand looks much better.
Okay, well, I've got something a little bit underwhelming. So one of the reasons why I resisted taking the Royal Redoubt was the opportunity to sort of throw it out as a naked card against whatever you might throw up in your next turn.
Sure.
So at this point, I don't feel like I'm actually out of the woods. So I am going to take some more base. I expect that my bases are basically tissue paper, and the vast majority of the damage that you got is coming straight through to my face. So, yeah, I just have to kind of hold on here and hope for the best.
Sure. So we do have a much better looking hand this time. We will get rid of the Royal Redoubt with the ability to start looking at the hand to come here. Command Ship, Supply Bot, Survey Ship, and 4 Scouts. Not the most threatening hand to me necessarily, but the life totals are getting pretty low. And if he does get the Survey Ship and the Command Ship, he could choose to cycle this over and shuffle the discard, which is both an advantage and a disadvantage, because he would only get the Command Ship once for those 2 deck shuffles, but he could also draw it into a base that could just win the game because we're at such low authority points, and I don't have authority gain. He does. We get to draw a card with the Survey Ship, we're going to draw a card with the Corvette, and unfortunately, we bottom decked the Blob Destroyer. That is quite the bummer. Quite le bummer. Survey Ship here could be something I get rid of. I do feel obliged, as strange as oh man. Okay, time to think here. Blob Wheel. Kill or not kill. This is I'm actually thinking about this not going to kill the Blob Wheel. I don't see the Blob Wheel with the cards you have coming up as a threat. You don't have another green card in your hand. You'd have to draw into the Hive or the Mech World. And actually the Hive. The Hive would be the only thing that's going to really hit that. And I have Blob Destroyer bottom decked. If I can draw Blob Destroyer another green card, I'm going to destroy it for free next turn. And it's only going to do 1 damage. Perhaps I'm going to eat my words if you do win by 1 damage. But the Survey Ship here is another thing to consider. Do I want to scrap this out to make you discard a card? Well, looking at your hand, that's not really going to matter. You're just going to discard a Scout. So I do my damage. I don't take any. The row is locked. We've made very sparse. Sparsely. We've made very few purchases since that time you said you thought we might not buy anything anymore. Pretty accurate idea about the game state. So I just kind of cross my fingers and hope that when he draws, assuming he does with the Survey Ship and the Command Ship, he doesn't draw the lethal damage.
All right, so let's see here. So I've got a Supply Bot. I will go ahead and scrap out there. And I will throw down the Command Ship. And now I have a little bit of a conundrum. As you said, I don't really want to buy anything here.
Right.
Interesting call, I think, to avoid the Blob Wheel. You can always get it next time or get it for free on your reshuffle. I've got the big advantage here that while you are terribly in green, disgustingly in green, your scrap game really hasn't got on. So I expect that you're going to end up with a bunch of starter cards or just a mix of both, unless you get lucky. So the big question is, do I draw with the Survey Ship into one of these bases? I've got to believe that I'm not going to win with one of these bases unless I get what conditions can I win with? If I get the Hive and then I draw into Royal Redoubt, that'll be 3, 6 plus my other 6, 12. So yeah, okay, that's kind of cool. If I get the Cutter, it's only going to be 4 more damage. So while I've got the bomb on my side and I've got scrap on my side, I'm actually not really in that much of a better situation considering how much damage you can deliver. So I can put you here at 9, and I've got to decide, do I want to draw a handful of bases and try to hold on through 2 turns while you have this tight bit of a lock on me. One advantage that I do get if I pop the survey ship in my hand here is that I'll strand 4 scouts on the wrong side of my shuffle.
Right.
But I also strand the command ship.
Right.
We call that taking out the trash. I don't want those cards, and effectively playing survey ship acts as if temporarily scrapping 4 scouts from my new draw pile. That's kind of a weird way to look at it, perhaps, but that's what I'm thinking. So if you've got a monster draw, I could be dead anyways. I think what I'm going to do, recognizing that the survey ship and the command ship neutralizes 1, 2, 3 of my starter cards of a total of 5 that I've got, I'm actually going to do something you don't see a lot. And I'm going to actually end my turn, which basically will not play the survey ship and will throw it back into my discard. You don't see a lot of people do that. And so hopefully I won't regret that terribly, but that way I don't strand my command ship on the wrong side of my draw.
Right, and that so to be clear, in that instance, what you're saying is it is better for me to have a chance to get command ship again, as I was saying earlier, because that is the central hub of your deck here, versus stranding it and the scouts to draw into a lot of bases hoping to survive.
Yes, and I'm also, in that case, stranding my supply bot, so I actually don't even get better on my scrap. I don't actually even reduce any more of my cards. I'm actually stranding my main cards.
Right.
So,
well, on our draw, we do get a blob fighter to hit that blob destroyer, so we are going to be able to hit this blob wheel. Now, I have the option here of getting something off the row, and in the same vein of not taking anything because it's just not going to help, I'm also not going to get rid of anything to try to flip anything that is going to be good for me or TheeMystic. That's not my goal here, especially because I just shuffled my deck. Anything I buy into the discard, it's going to take forever to show up. I'm dead or they're dead before we even get there. Mistlebot can scrap out a scout here. It's not really going to matter, but it looks nice to have that pretty animation of the card being destroyed floating up. And we will go ahead and do the damage to TheeMystic. It is 12-9, and it comes down. We have made a game of all the of all the complications, of all these tactics. We are down to a game of draws, and we have both set up a deck in 2 different ways to try to end the game, and it all comes down to one hand, I believe. And what's it going to be? That's the juice.
Well, survey ship in my hand. I've got the Royal Redoubt here. Survey is not my friend, so I will pop to make you discard 2, and I think the missile mech could seal my fate if you indeed do have it.
So I currently don't. What I have right now, I was able to get 2 scouts to discard, so that was really lucky there to have 2 scouts. I do have a bunch of starters, but nice to have 2 there. We have Corvette, Trade Pod, and Space Station, which means I have a draw, which means I have an out. So I'm going to play the Space Station, and if I draw the missile mech, the game is over. If I do not draw the missile mech, but I draw survey ship, it's not quite over. I can draw, so I got Blob Fighter, Missile Mech, and Survey Ship. Those are the 3 cards I can draw into that keep me alive in this game, and I have 7 cards to draw from. So less than a 50% chance, but still a chance. Is the luck backs in full effect for this game? The answer is no. So that's going to be killing that, doing 1 damage, knowing that I could win in the next hand, but knowing that I've probably lost with his.
I will not delay you. No, you gotta. But look at this. For all of the starters that I have,
wow.
I got rid of all of them. But very good game, sir. Very
Incredible
good game.
Yeah, that was a very, very well fought game. And I always, if a game can ever come down to the last draw between 2 opponents, I tend to either tell people I'm playing with, teaching the game to, or myself even, that was a well-played game. Like, maybe there were instances where better decisions could have been made. There certainly always seems to be that case. But when you can get it down to draw versus draw at the end, it means both people were really, really focused on the deck, really focused on what they were countering with, and did a good job of making a fight out of it. So I really like when games end that way.
Same here.
I mean, it's frustrating, but I like when games end that way. it's yeah, love hate. All right. Well, we're going to be going into game number 2 of this series. This is a series with TheeMystic. Where are you at in the standings these days? Do you are you paying attention to that at all?
I am. Over the holidays, I was really grinding pretty hard. So right now, I am. I think I'm like 112, maybe 120, somewhere around there.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm looking at it right now. I am 119. Lagging way behind you because I've been slacking. Level 41, 10 of 42 wins.
Well, it's worth noting that when I hit level 41, that actually was the 100. That was the top 100 a couple months ago. So it's crazy how much people are leveling. It is absolutely insane.
Mm-hmm. I'm coming for you.
Yeah, I can tell. I feel the heat, man. All right, so going into game number 2, it looks like actually you may want to. The challenge was sent in the delicious bottom row, it looks like.
Oh, all right. Sorry.
Which is excellent. Super excellent format, ladies and gentlemen. But we will be focusing on the core set.
You know that's what I've been playing.
There we go. So now I know if I want a game against you, that's what I need to that's what I need to be sending the queue into.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let me give you a challenge in vanilla flavor.
There we go. Let's do it. So going into game number 2, I get the draw again for number 1. Okay. Worth noting that I did. Oh, geez, what a board. Okay. Yeah, I did go first last time, which a lot of people do give certainly a good edge, a good advantage to as far as winning the game. At least there's, I think it's 55-45 or somewhere around there is kind of the average of first versus second player. But that was a very close game. Here in this game, my decision's kind of already made for me. And the reason that is I can't take an Explorer, and I can't afford anything else. And the reason I can't take an Explorer is because if he has 4, I can't give him 2 missile bots. There's no part of me that can do that. So a scrap card is necessary. If a 1-cost card pops up, which it didn't, I would have taken it regardless of what it was just to get the value. And then we will end our turn. Our saving grace here, if I want to call it that, is that if he does take a missile bot, he can't take patrol mech or space station as well. So he will have to either make a decision for missile bot or patrol mech or space station. Can't double up on any of those just yet.
It is, kind of interesting that when we look back and you cited the percentages of wins. How many games in a row can you go Coker when you go second? So I am so my first turn, and yet I'm miraculously behind here. I will of course take the missile bot because I can't stop that. I will have 5 for my next draw, but this game is already in a very, very bad situation for me.
Well, allow me to make it a little bit better for you and play 3. So if I had 4 here, Patrol Mech would have been my take hands down, just because I have a missile bot already, and being able to utilize 2 Machine Cult cards for that extra scrap on the Patrol Mech ability would have been absolutely fantastic. Not to mention the 3 trade that I would have got for it to go up towards Port of Call, maybe even Fleet HQ. As it stands, I have 3, and so I once again am faced with an option between 2 cards. I'm faced with an option between the Trade Pod and with the Explorer. Now, if I take an Explorer, I think I'm riding off a little bit of an opportunity. I think it'd be silly for me not to take Trade Pod here, even if I can get rid of the Explorer later. I think that's being a little too critical. I think taking the Trade Pod gives me a chance at a 1-cost card to drop, which once again did not happen. But alas, I think that's still the best play. We have a Trade Pod and a Missile Bot going into the next deck cycle. Trade Pod gets me halfway to Port of Call, so I'm okay with that. We'll let that ride, even though I'm a little disappointed I didn't draw for it.
Yeah, I understand why you're disappointed. I, of course, as you know, have 5 at this point. The Patrol Mech's one of my favorite cards. It's one of the best cards in the core game. It's early game flexibility. It's something that we come to count on. And it's something that we learn to count on. So
I think I'll certainly be taking that and hoping to basically combo into one of these bigger cards. So
Sure.
I also will say it's a bad habit to play your cards the way that I just did, and I have been doing over these couple of games. I discourage people from doing that. You should be playing one card at a time, because when you start playing in the more detailed formats, you will be punished for not doing that.
Right. And to that point, to be clear, what he's saying is that clicking play all in the core set, nothing's going to happen that's necessarily going to punish you for that unless you clicked play all when you had an order you need to play things in. But as far as developing good habits, when you do get into other expansions, it is important not to push play all, especially with things like events, where doing that can actually end up costing you 8 authority or something worse. So here we have our Missilebot on the first draw, which I'm actually happy about. It does mean I'm not going to be bottom decking that. It does mean I get to use that scrap. And that does leave me with a clean 3. Now for 4 there, I could have kept that, not scrapped out and gone Space Station. But taking Supply Bot and scrapping out a card is just a better solution. It's giving me another scrap card early, just at the beginning of my second deck. And I do have plenty of trade here at the trade pod and the Supply Bot.
Okay, so I've got a couple of conundrums here, and this is one of these interesting things in terms of where your playstyle is. I've got a patrol mech and 4 scouts. I can throw down 7, and I can take the mothership. I can throw down 4 and take the space station or the freighter. I can throw down 6 and actually get the port of call. And looking at this situation, you have, I mean, your maximum draw is 7.
Right.
That would be four scouts in a trade pod. And this is where looking ahead and looking back into your opponent's discard and their draw deck is really important. So I know you could get the mothership. Your average draw here is probably going to be 6, which is going to give you the port of call, and that's going to be a major pain in my butt. While I do have a Missilebot, you've got 2 scrap cards. You've already scrapped something. I may scrap something before my deck is finished, but that's not known yet. And so I have to decide, do I think that you will get the mothership, or do I think I want to let you get the port of call, which is the more likely outcome? I am going to probably make what we'll look back on as the game deciding decision for my turn this time. And I'm actually going to go with the port of call. Why? Because I can prevent you. Oh, and I got a trade bot for my foresight. So I was rewarded for that move with an extra trade card, with an extra scrap card, which might help me get ahead next time. So yeah, so I took that longer term, betting against your ability to get the mothership. So
yes,
hopefully that'll work out for me.
It did work out for you in a way, that's for sure. Because I do have 6. 6 is correct. I do have 6, and I really like that play. I really like that idea. Just kind of saying the probability of me having a Viper in my hand was really high, especially with 2 still left to draw. The flagship flipping is something I'm actually not disappointed in at all. I think the flagship might get slept on a little bit for its value. Primarily that it automatically draws a card. Having draw a card in the primary ability box is pretty good. Also, I have 2 scrap cards already. So my deck is quick. My deck is fast. Doing 5 damage for free, essentially, as far as deck space is concerned here, is I'm totally comfortable doing that. I will take every primary draw card I can probably get my hands on at this point. So flipping that, like, and some people might go different, maybe take that space station, right, and maybe go up towards the Fleet HQ mothership or something on the flip. But I'm okay with flagship here.
Okay, I'm with you there. So now I've got a Missilebot. I will hold true to my claim at the beginning to scrap scouts.
Excellent.
Now what to do? This one's a little bit tricky. Let me see where you're living. So you've got some draw. You're going to be living in a small deck really soon that's going to be able to buy expensive things. So I've got 4. Let me do some damage there and think. The space station is a flexible buy here, but economy is not going to be my problem. What's actually going to be my problem in this deck is how quickly I'm going to be able to get to things. And the freighter, while it's usually a perfect P2 turn one or deck one draw. A lot of people sleep on it at this point in the game. We're still in the early points. I've mostly got a deck around economy. You've got a fast deck that's going to get faster. I need to shortcut that deck in the event that my draws don't work out. So I'm actually going to take a freighter. And hopefully I'll be able to top deck some big bomb at a later point in time to offset, how fast my deck is relative to yours.
So yeah, to bring up, to continue, just to have you basically, I guess, re-say what you said, but the idea is when you're taking the freighter, you're not taking the space station, even though you can get rid of it out of your deck for the 4. You're taking the freighter because you value the faction ability of putting a ship like the mothership on the right side, or maybe something else that'll pop up eventually, into the top of the deck. Also because you might be concerned that you're going to fall too far behind.
That's right.
Okay.
And that helps me. That essentially helps me catch up. If I can throw the command ship up there, if I can throw the mothership, blob carrier, the dreadnought, any of those types of ships that I can throw up on top, it's basically skipping a shuffle, and it helps me very quickly, hopefully, catch up.
Yeah, and another way of saying that for those who are familiar with poker is playing to your outs, right? Playing to the idea that this is a strategy that's going to help me try to get back into the game. It may be my best chance, so I'm going to play to that out instead of trying something else that might not make quite as much sense, even if it's viable. Here we have what I call 7 trade. And on the right is a 7 trade cost card called the Mothership. So there we did use a supply bot to scrap out that Viper on the left side because I did want to keep the 7 to grab the Mothership. The Mothership works just perfectly with my deck, and even if it didn't, the Mothership is still a strong card because primary draw ability. It doesn't take up space in your deck and does damage.
Yep, I see that. Okay, well, I did get a protocol, so I'll be able to soak some damage. I have 2 Vipers, which were left over from the carryover, so I'm happy to actually get rid of them. At this point, you now are getting fast and faster, so I need to stop that. So I'm actually going to take that Blob Fighter out of there. The Ram is not something I want you to have. Now, the question is, would a yellow strategy help me here? I actually think that it wouldn't, to be totally honest. I think I actually need to soak damage and try to hold on as long as possible. That could have been an argument to take the space station.
Sure.
But with the patrol mech, I'm also going to take this Ram again, scrap out the last Viper in my hand, and basically get into the mode of holding on.
And I mean, you just took at base value 13 damage with 4 faction damage. So yeah, that's a little bit of damage. So yeah, and that certainly makes me nervous. It makes me aware that I'm not necessarily out of the ballpark. Looking at the deck to come here, a missile bot and a freighter with plenty of scouts. That's not something that is the most terrifying thing to see. So I'm not too concerned as far as moving forward with that. With 3 here, the Imperial Fighter on the right side, Imperial Frigate in the middle, and then Explorer on the left for my options. The Imperial Frigate is going to be... I'm gonna go on a quick 10-second run-through of why this is the best card in the game. And this is obviously a biased opinion. It is not actually the best card in the game. Imperial Frigate. Primary ability is 4 damage and target opponent discards a card. You're controlling what your opponent can do directly by making them get rid of something. It does 4 damage. It can get through a majority of bases in both the Colony Wars sets and the Corsairs, like space stations on the board right now. And you can get rid of it to draw a card, which means it doesn't take up any space in your deck, and it's great for the late game as well as the early game. At any point in time, you can use it to just move on. I love it. Love that card. So I will take that card to add to my deck. It works well with my fast pace that I'm building here. 44-43 is the scoreline now. I'm kind of feeling that at any second, the game is just going to go from the top authorities we have now, and one of us is just going to drop down pretty quick.
Yeah. I mean, I am in a situation in this game already, which has been true since the beginning. You've got a fast deck. It's only getting faster with the scrap that you've got. So you took out that... you took out the protocol, so that's good that it soaks some damage, but I've got a scrap now out of my world. I need to soak damage because that's my new life. And so I'm leaving kind of crap on the row, but that's not really important to you right now because you're really about stompy beatdown. So we'll see what happens here. I think, yeah, you're right. This is going to take a very, very quick turn for the worse for one of us.
Definitely. I mean, you have scrapped out 4 cards, and I have scrapped out 4 cards, or 3 cards actually. I'm actually behind as far as the scrapping is concerned. So that's something to keep in mind. And it is also, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So we do have the mothership here in our hand. We are going to play it to draw a card, and then we'll play a trade pod. That's going to ping to draw another card, which I'm really excited about. So what we're going to be trying to do is just, so they're taking bases. It's worth noting in my deck, I have nothing that automatically removes bases like I did last game. I had a Blob Destroyer, Missile Mech. Those cards are not present here in my deck. Any base he plays, I have to kill with the damage in my deck. But the same goes back the other way. Although he has a lot of damage cards, he has to kill any base that I take. Now, we have an Imperial Frigate, and we have a lot of draw. What I'm going to do is take this Royal Redoubt on the right side. This is a card that actually showed up in the last game as well. And I'm going to do 13 damage through it. The reason I'm taking this card is I'm also going to put pressure on the survey ship on the left side. In row number 2 there, lane number 2, I'm going to put pressure on that card, knowing that if he leaves it for me, it's giving me another opportunity to make him discard a card with ease by playing the Royal Redoubt and the survey ship for a ping. The smaller our decks get, the better discard is. So I always try to take different cards that allow discard later in the game as we move forward. So I'm going to do a little bit of damage here, and then we will end our turn.
Okay. So I will discard as commanded by the rules. One of the reasons why I was fine to jump in the pool with the Ram, part of that was hate drafting to stop you, but also because of the flexibility of this card. And the Ram is one of these cards that I will almost always buy, even if I'm not in green, for reasons like this. The battle cruiser's here. I really would love to be putting that thing on top, but I can't let you have it. And I now have converted that green card into something a little bit more valuable to me. So hopefully that'll help me survive here.
Right.
And what I'm also hoping happens is that you end up stranding your scrap cards on the wrong side of your draw because of the flagship. So I'll be curious to see what comes of this for you.
Right. And as we are noticing here, that draw for the Mystic was loaded with scouts. As a result, the rest of his deck here is going to be punchy, very, very punchy. So I should expect to take quite a bit of damage here. We draw all the things, so we have all the things in our hand, which is just so awesome. Both of our scrap cards are in our hand. Flagship is in our hand. Gives us a nice even deck ending, nice bookend. Survey ship, as I mentioned, is going to be something I take. I think taking the battlecruiser was just spot on. I think that was a great purchase. It leaves me the survey ship, but I mean, you can't take, there's no like package deal here where you get both of them. Next time you should probably think about taking the survey ship instead of the battle cruiser, you know. So then we have a cutter on the right side. Now the idea, the duality of the cutter, of course, is that a great early game card, but late in the game it falls off just a little bit. However, the smaller the deck, especially with a card like flagship drawing and with a faction ability for 5 authority gain, I still like taking the cutter here, especially because I think you want that card to try to survive longer, since that's a part of your strategy. And I've noticed that, you've been taking bases. You also said it out loud, which is something we're doing here, which is great. And I'm going to go ahead and end my turn. We're going to go ahead 1937, going into, what do we have? Turn 16. It feels like it's been a much longer game than that.
Yeah. So, okay, I get the port of call here. I said earlier in the game that move would probably define win or loss. And while you would have been able to buy it yourself and not the mothership at the time, it hasn't really paid off for me. You've got a lot of discards, so I've got a missile bot. I will get rid of that. But my draw here is not all that great. In fact, I've got this Imperial Fighter. I bought that Imperial Fighter along the lines of thinking it would work with the space station, and then maybe with the battle cruiser. The truth is, I'm not going to get to play that battle cruiser. So I've got 2 scouts in my hand. I've got the Imperial, I've got the port of call here, and you've got a lot of discard coming my way. Everything that I draw next turn is going to be a powerful card. I'm actually in a really tough spot, and I need to get lucky here to try to make something happen. I need you not to draw the Royal Redoubt and those scrap cards. You will get rid of this port of call. So I'm actually going to, without getting full benefit for this, trying to make something happen. This is about a desperation play. In other words, I'm saying I'm so far behind in the game now. I need to get lucky and create some conditions. So I will scrap this and draw a card. I do get lucky. And, I get the patrol mech. I could get the missile mech, which might help me later. Tricky. I think I do need to buy that. I'm going to buy the missile mech. It also keeps it out of your hands.
And you believe that's more worth than the 5 damage for the patrol mech here?
I think so, because it's a 2-for-1, right? The missile mech's going to give me 6 damage. I might be able to get some speed going in my deck. But again, for me, I'm really believing that I'm so far behind now that I'm desperately scrapping, basically accepting the next 6 damage off the top to attempt to make something happen.
Okay.
So you'll be able to see my precise hand by looking at it here, and you'll know exactly what to do next.
Well, I did not have 6 damage, which is interesting. So I have one more scrap card in my deck, which is the missile bot. That's why I still have 1 scout I'm hanging on to here in my hand in case I want to scrap that out. I have 3. There's another Imperial frigate on the right side, and of course, I am going to use this Imperial frigate to try to cycle into any of these cards. We have a lot of cards here. I'm worried about bottom decking my missile bot. It's 31-19, and I kind of got to pull the trigger. If we look at our opponent's hand as well, it's completely chock full of lovely, lovely cards that would not want to be discarded. If I can happen to get into Survey Ship or Royal Redoubt here, that's going to make this so painful for my opponent. So it is worth trying at least to get as many discards as possible with a full hand. Unfortunately, we get the Royal Redoubt, which needed a faction to get that discard, and we just scrapped out that. We just got rid of that faction. That's not really going to help us. So I am going to take this Imperial frigate here. Once again, 4 damage, scraps out for a draw, doesn't take up any space in the deck. 1 trade will be wasted on the bottom. We do get a Royal Redoubt out to soak some damage, and we do have him down to 12. Our next hand's probably going to be pretty good because we did miss a couple of those draws there.
Ooh, so this one's really hard. I need that faction. I'd love to buy that Stealth Needle. I can buy it later. I can't afford to not take another starter out, and I need the draw from the green, so I have to ditch the freighter. I will scrap out and kind of lay down here. Now I could pop at this point I could pop the space station to give myself the Stealth Needle. And, because I'm so far behind, Sam, I'm actually going to play a little bit crazier. And again, recognizing that, at this point, I'm basically believing that I've lost. So I'm trying to do anything I can possibly do that will give me a chance to come back. Now, what conditions could happen that could help me come back? If I pop this space station, buy the Stealth Needle, I draw into the battle cruiser, draw from the battle cruiser into the Stealth Needle, I could actually turn this game around and win on this next turn. So believing that you're going to kill me the next turn, I'm actually going to, again, sacrifice this base, throw the Stealth Needle down, play the ram, and basically hold on for dear life. I don't get it. And, that's what the game's about sometimes. So
Sure.
I will pass it on to you, and, maybe this is the end.
I will say I did want you to get that. I did want to see that happen. Alas, here we are. Need 12. And so here I did discard a Viper. You might think maybe discard the Trade Pod or a Cutter in my hand here, but I already have the Flagship, so I'm certainly not discarding the Cutter. And I don't want to get rid of the Trade Pod because I have a 66% chance of getting a card that draws either the Mothership or the Survey Ship and drawing into the Mothership if I didn't draw it, so I could get 2 draws with the cycle. So the game is going to be over here. We will just finish out playing all our cards, and certainly a good match here.
Yep.
Yeah.
I will not disappoint you and tell you that I was holding Patrol Mech, Missile Bot, and Freighter. So all of my 6-cost cards were stranded at the bottom.
Oh man, stranded out. Will said. So this is also something I think it's really important as we were talking about kind of deck archetypes in core set. Very important to remember to play to your outs. I think that is an incredibly important idea to remember, and I really, really like the idea of scrapping out that space station and the protocol as that game was going on, knowing that you needed more, because otherwise, you know, it probably wasn't going to come together.
Yeah, I had to catch up, and you know, it didn't work out for me.
Right.
Gave myself a chance to win, and that's always what we're trying to do, no matter what the situation of the game looks like.
Right. Okay, so going into game number 3, and yes, before you ask, I have rigged the system so I go first. It is true. I will admit it. I am not ashamed. So this is an interesting trade row. If we're looking at battle stations here, battle station not normally a card you really want to see early in the game. Might be a better mid to late game card because it doesn't give you any trade. It doesn't give you any authority. It's just kind of a wall. It's like if you wanted to build a brick wall to practice building a brick wall, well, battle station. And then you can kick it down to some bricks will fall over and hit your opponent for 5 damage. Now I got 2 Vipers and a Scout. And with this, now anytime that I start with 1 Scout, this is the way I play. I imagine other people may play this way, they may not. I will take anything I can buy, if I can buy it, because I have to get some value out of it. Imperial Fighter here, I don't mind taking it with this row. Looking at this row, there's no scrap cards. There's 2 other Star Empire cards out here, and there's not a lot of reach. So what I can do is take that card, and now I can react to whatever he does. If he decides to go 2 Explorers, I can choose to go 2 Explorers if I want to. If he takes, you know, I have the option to just kind of let that sit. Also worth noting, everything costs 3 on the row right now. So a little interesting tidbit for those trying to keep the edges round. Perhaps if TheeMystic has 4, he's going to end up wasting a trade. Who knows? We'll see. I'm done. Woohoo!
Okay, well, it is very interesting that you rigged to go first. It is also very interesting that I played the triple coker. I don't think it's ever happened where I started second 3 games in a row.
And got 2 Vipers, 3 Scouts. Jeez.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that, and I've played a lot of games. So quickly clean up the damage. In vanilla, Blob Wheel is a really good card here. You know, you're going to have 5, and good luck with that. I mean, Survey Ship's great, but you would have bought the Blob Wheel, and you may still buy a
Okay,
Blob Wheel.
what do you know?
Just turn 1 up. Yeah. So quickly pass the turn.
I am certainly going to buy that Blob Wheel, and I'm doing that specifically as a match to what TheeMystic has done. This cutter card. I hear this card's kind of a good card. Cutter pops up, and that's why, like, if I was looking at that, right, Blob Wheel and Explorer were the 2 cards I was planning on taking. If I take Explorer first and then take Blob Wheel and flip that, I'm gonna be a little upset. This is why you always take that card, similar to what Dustin was saying earlier about taking the Survey Ship first. If something like this pops up, boom, that goes right into the deck.
All right, but now how do you feel about having that Imperial?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
We got the recycling station. The first time it's showed up, I've got 5, as you know. Would be very easy for me to get that Survey Ship, but to be honest, I mean, I'm looking for bombs. So I'm going to go and get that recycling station. Also helps that you really don't have any damage. And I expect that you'll pop that Blob Wheel whenever the opportunity comes. So let's see how that serves me.
And for those who aren't aware, so the recycling station, it's a discard up to 2 cards, and then you draw that many cards. This is nicknamed the Bike, and there's a reason. And this is one of the very most loved cards in the core set amongst people who play the game, just because you don't have to have scrap or draw for it to just do absolute work. Can do a lot of work for you. So we have the Blob Wheel here. You mentioned I am going to be thinking about getting rid of that. Currently still no scrap. You have 2 bases. Not a lot of damage for either of us here. I do have the edge and damage with the Imperial Fighter hitting for 2. But we do have the Cutter for healing for 4. So I'm not feeling like I have to rush this game right now. So if I'm looking at what to take, I feel more comfortable taking something that's a bit slower, like the Embassy Yacht. This is kind of an interesting play. Even for me, this is something I probably wouldn't normally do. I would probably normally try to rush down, but I'm looking at what you have. I'm seeing the recycle station, the Blob Wheel. You know what? I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to change my mind. We're going to take the Imperial Frigate. I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to tell you why. This is what I would normally do. So the recycling station is a 4-butt. It has a 4-post, and I currently do not have enough damage to really kill that unless I get really lucky. Taking a card that can kill it in one shot is almost a necessity here. This is me saying I can't let you have. Oh my goodness. I can't let you have the bike out and just let it sit out there turn after turn. Now, I'm fortunate enough to have another scout in my hand. And as you mentioned about the Blob Wheel being cycled out, another bike pops up. Now, the only thing worse than facing off against a player with one bike is 2 of them. And so we're gonna take the recycling station. We're gonna even it up. We're gonna even up the bike count, and I'm feeling pretty comfortable in the spot that I've gotten into.
You know what? You know what we call 2 recycling stations, right?
I think that's a tandem bicycle.
Well, we could call it that, but it's also known as the poor man's brain world.
Ooh, yes, yes, yes. Very good.
Okay. Wow. So that was quite an eventful turn. You got deeper into yellow, and giving me some concern. So my bike's here. So too is my Blob Wheel. What to do? So now the recycling station will actually give me the option to take a coin and take some economy here if that's what I wanted, or I can discard up to 2 cards and draw them. Now I've got 2 scouts and a viper, so I could toss off 2 vipers, a scout and a viper, and I might get back 2 scouts, which would give me 3. Which would not be enough for me to buy that patrol mech, which is a card that I am excited about. It's one of my favorite cards. You mentioned that the game's kind of moving a little bit slow, and that this is probably going to take a little bit longer. I think I agree with you on that, and I'm actually going to do a discard and be punished for my insolence. So I end up with 2, and rather than doing something useful, I will buy an explorer, and that's just the way it goes, kids.
So right there, you are not interested in getting rid of your Blob Wheel to kind of make up for that at all. You want to still keep that out, knowing I probably can't get to it.
Correct. That's my assumption,
right?
Based upon what you've got. I mean, you could get rid of the. If you've got the Imperial Fighter and your 2 Vipers, then yeah, you'll get rid of the bike, which I would rather have that happen before I shuffle, right? So yes. That would actually be better for me. But the Blob Wheel will still be intact.
Right. So on that note, I do have 2 Vipers and the Imperial Fighter.
Awesome.
To his note, he's saying, I'm going to kill this. He's going to go do his discard, and then he's going to have another turn and shuffle and be able to draw it again. Let's say that this was the first draw on his new deck. The recycling station is going to go to a fresh discard, and it's going to sit there for a while. Now, on that note, you might ask, hey, well, why not? Why just don't kill it then? Because he doesn't want to cycle it to put on top. And to that, I would respond, yeah, but I could see the next 3 cards that I'm going to draw are 3 scouts, and I might not be able to kill it again. Kill it when you can. I can kill it now. We're going to kill it now. Blob Wheel, as he was planning, is going to stay out. Looking at our deck, we have an Imperial Fighter, an Imperial Frigate, and a Recycling Station. We have 3-star Empire cards, one of which is going to help us cycle our deck faster. Looking at what's out here and looking at what our opponent has, which is a Recycling Station and a Blob Wheel only with 5 trade to come. Maybe the Patrol Mech's going to be a pretty good take for them, but that's also going to put them on a weird trade spot. They could still have that Blob Wheel. I like taking Survey Ship here. It's going to hit 2. It's going to hit 2 of my ships for extra damage. It's not going to make my deck any slower, and it's going to help boost the Recycling Station in cycling as many cards as possible.
All right. Well, this is really interesting hearing both sides of the conversation. So had you also not pulled that frigate, I would be able to play 8 this turn. So I would have had the 5 in my hand and then the Blob Wheel. Plus I would have had the Recycling Station to do with as well. So I was kind of hoping you missed that, not just because I would keep the card out there, but if you turned up the Brain World, I would have been throwing that into my discard.
Right.
So I couldn't buy the Patrol Mech. I tried. I was a little greedy last time, and I was punished for it, and now I've got an extra card in my deck. But I also don't have a lot of damage. You've got a growing accumulation of yellow cards, as well as the Recycling Station. And as it sits right now, I actually don't have any removal for that. So the Patrol Mech's super flexible. It turns up the Survey Ship. I'm not really happy to see that. Blob World at this point now needs to help me in a different way, and I'm actually going to buy one of these battle stations. Why? One, for people who played Magic, this is basically a lava axe, and so it'll soak 5 and take 5, and it'll also help me out with the patrol mech in the event that I'm able to pair those cards. That'll let me start my scrap adventure. So now I've got some removal to help get rid of the recycling station. Having one of those cards live a long and unharassed life is a recipe for disaster. So let's see how it pays off.
Definitely. Yeah, I like that play. I like that play switch over to the battle station. Looking at what we have here, we have 3, and I'm gonna do something a little bit interesting here. And I'm going to, like, we get to play this, like, clone game. I don't know. It's like we get to be doppelgangers. I'm going to take this other battle station. This is for the exact reason that it's a straight hate draft. It's just saying that you had a battle station. I don't want you to get 2 of them. That'd be really miserable. And not only that, but your damage is pretty light. Patrol mech having to be used for 5 instead of the 3 trade is kind of my goal here. Taking another base is going to probably lead to that. And otherwise, I'm just moving so well on damage. I think I'm ahead in damage. Taking that card just kind of keeps me ahead. Do I want to take Federation Shuttle or Blob Fighter? No, I don't want to take these cards. Federation Shuttle, I might consider just because I have a cutter. Blob Fighter right now is not going to actually hit any draw. There's no other blob up on the board. I don't know what's going to flip under these cards, and I don't mind if my opponent takes them. So I'm going to leave those cards out there. We're going to do 1 damage, and then we're just going to cycle our turn.
This one now is a very strange noose kind of closing around my neck. So, hey, I've got Battle Station, and I've got Recycling Station. How great. You've got enough damage to take care of both of those at this point. Plus, you've got the bike, and you've got at least draw 2. So I expect next turn you will be able to put yourself in position for a new shuffle. If I actually activate the Recycling Station right now, I might pull the Patrol Mech, but then I'll have no removal against your Recycling Station, and I'll have to live with that. I would get a potential scrap out of it. I still might. Maybe you draw 5 starters. That's very unlikely, but it might happen. So I'm in a little bit of a bind here because you can get rid of both of these cards, and if I recycle here and take the aggressive play of the draw, I won't have any way to get rid of the Recycling Station. The other side of this is if you do lay down Recycling Station, cycle through, draw a whole bunch of stuff, and reset yourself, I'll be dumping your Recycling Station into a fresh discard. So for that reason, I'm actually not going to activate the Recycling Station to discard and draw again. I will, however, buy the Embassy Yacht because I have no life gain, and having that allows me to throw away this card. And I don't really have any factionable green, so I'm nervous about turning up more yellow or maybe another cutter. So I'm actually going to pass the turn there and pray for the best.
All right. So both of us just let the Blob Fighter and the Shuttle sit, and taking the Embassy Yacht, you do also have the chance, right? The backdoor chance of having 2 bases out when you draw that. Yeah. Well, we do have the Imperial Frigate, and I have a survey ship. Now, it's a bit of a bummer, because if I don't draw the 20% chance of getting that Recycling Station, this is an unfortunate situation for me. This is going to be at the bottom. I mean, they're going to be at the bottom of the deck anyway. They're going to go down into a fresh discard pile anyway. I feel like I'm losing out a little bit if I don't play the survey. But at the same time, here's another thing to think about. If I do play the survey ship and draw a card, that's going to hit the Imperial Frigate for the faction for 2, go up to 6. And I want to get rid of the bike first and foremost. The battle station is not as much of a threat, but that leaves me with 2 extra that's not going to go through the battle station. So is it as important for me to take the survey ship here? This is a weird, awkward spot, because no matter what, if I draw the Recycling Station now, I'm going to end up shuffling my deck right after. Or if I wait a turn to use it, I'm going to be shuffling my deck right after. The Recycling Station is going to be, if it's killed on the next cycle, that's just going to be the case. It's going to go down to my discard, and, what do you do? So, all that to say, we are going to start by taking the supply bot on the right side. It is the only scrap card that has entered the game until that missile bot just came up. And because of that missile bot alone, I'm going to play the survey ship to try to get another trade to take that missile bot. What do we get? We get another trade to take the missile bot. So we will take out the recycling station, and then we will let that ride.
Okay. Yay. Well, I mean, battle station's a couple damage.
It's doing what you wanted it to do, right?
It is doing what I wanted it to do. It also is ill-timed.
Oh no.
No, it's fine. I've only got 4 now. I will take the survey ship to try to keep you off of it. I'll end up wasting. I'm trying to decide, will I waste? Maybe I need that blob fighter, even though I don't have any pairing for it. I need to make sure that I can get rid of these. You've got more bases, so I'm going to pull that for that reason. It stinks to do that. Good news is that Patrol Mech will be there, so even if you're able to take out the battle station and I don't get a scrap out of it, I will be able to make sure that the recycling station is put to bed after only 1 use.
Right.
But I don't like this game. My chances of winning this game are extremely low, and both you and I have played long enough to see this. Maybe new players don't know that,
sure.
But yeah, this game is much closer to the end and competitively distant than the scores the authority scores indicate.
Sure. I feel comfortable, especially after drawing that missile bot, because we've been able to mimic each other as we've been moving forward, and I think I've gotten the slight advantage of the mimicry by having the Cutter and the Imperial Fighter early, and then being able to go into More Star Empire, plus having scrap behind 2 mimic decks. So having so yeah, you're totally right, and so I'm feeling comfortable. Doesn't mean the game's over. No. For example, right here, I'm actually not going to be able to kill the battle station. Which is awesome. Which is just crazy. Now what you may be asking is, well, Bax, why would you cycle out your Viper if you weren't going to be able to kill the battle station? And I would say, well, one, that's a good point, and that would be another fork down the road to say, okay, like maybe you hold on to that and get rid of the battle station. My strategy here is to not worry about that, because I'm the only one with scrap in the game right now, besides the patrol mech hitting the battle station, which in this instance is going to happen. I'm more confident that I'm going to be able to get those I'm going to be able to get those scrap cards out and consistently out. Here, for my options here, Barter World and Space Station on the left side. Those are my options. Space Station is going to be the take here. The reason being, it's another outpost. That's 3 outposts. That is Star Empire. This is one of the few situations where I'm taking the space station for anything but its ladder ability. Although, if I see a Brain World out there or a command, of course, probably going to use it for the ladder ability. So, battle station lives.
Awesome. 2 turns. That's 6 damage it's soaked, and you still gotta get through it. Okay. So I do have the patrol mech, as you know. Also have the survey ship, and it's kind of interesting here because 1, 2, 3, 4. I could actually take a pull of 6 if I let your recycling station live, and I can scrap. I could pull that missile mech. You've got a lot of deep investment there, or I could go to the machine base. The smart play here is to kill your base now, because looking at what's behind me, I mean, I'd be relying essentially on a fighter and a Viper to get rid of that. Otherwise, it could live quite a long life. So I think what I will actually do, this will be interesting. Again, I'm being a little flashy. I will take the machine base. I will scrap out that Viper, and then I will give you what for with the battle station.
There you go. There you go. Yep.
And now I've got scrap and draw, and it feeds into my end game strategy. So maybe that helps me get caught up here.
Yeah, after that turn, I'm not near as confident as I was before you took that turn. And that's a really good example of always considering, when you have a card, always consider that the scrap ability is actually a part of the cost value of that card. Battle Station, you may get stuck in the idea or the mindset like, well, I don't want to get rid of it. It's blocking damage. It's out there. But like what TheeMystic has shown here, it would be more valuable to get rid of the battle station to not let me have another turn of cycling cards than to keep it out there to block damage, because I'm going to be able to cycle cards and probably have damage to kill it. And now I'm in a way better position. So that was a really smart move. Going over to our hand, we have the Imperial Frigate, we have the Survey Ship to faction for a little extra damage. We have our cloned battle station. If we click our opponent's deck, the maximum amount of damage they're going to be able to put together is 4, which is not 5. So battle station probably going to live, and we're going to be able to give back a little bit of what we were receiving and let that battle station soak a bit. I am going to take the Barter World, and I'm taking this for a similar reason to what Dustin just showed using the battle station for. Scraps out for 5, heals for 2 for 4 cost. So this is a 7 authority swing, and I like that coming in, factioning off with my cutter if applicable. It's going to sit behind. It's not an outpost. It's going to sit behind these other 3 outposts I have, and I'm starting to get a little bit of a base play coming into the game. I'm just going to kind of hope that with my scrap, I'm going to be able to get those all out at the same time and just kind of lock it up.
Okay. Well, yep, you're right. I've got the Blob Fighter. It's an easy discard to the Blob Fighter. Now, this is tricky. Looking at your hand, I can see you can only maximum draw 3. I've got 5 here. I'd love nothing more than to put another base in my hand and get this defense center. You can't buy it, but you can buy Survey Ship. And you're getting faster and faster, so I'm going to hate draft on the Survey Ship. And then... I've got some unspent trade here. I don't need another Explorer. What I need is fast. The Fed Shuttle here is an interesting one because it might help me extend the game if I pair that with the Embassy Yacht. But again, it's clogging up the base. It might reveal another cutter for you, so I don't really want to turn that up. I've got to really soak a lot of damage here, and hopefully I'll be able to do that without the Fed Shuttle.
Here on the turn, as he mentioned, he knows you can see the last 5 cards by clicking them. He knows we can only have 3. My options here are the Federation Shuttle for 1, the Explorer for 2, or the Supply Bot for 3. The Supply Bot would be the only one I would really go for, and I'm not going to do it. I could take an Explorer as well just because it scraps out. But if I was going to take the Explorer, for the same reason, I would just end up taking Supply Bot. My deck's already fast enough. It's where it needs to be. If I'm going to take anything, I need more trade to take the Defense Center, the Missile Mech, or the Central Office that's on the board. Supply Bot, Federation Shuttle are clogging up lane 1 and lane 3. So I know TheeMystic doesn't really want to take those this late. He could end up taking the Federation Shuttle, right? You could end up doing that, and that I can see that play. But it's not enough for me to try to dilute my deck down with it. So we lead the battle station out. No automatic base removal is in this game at this point. We're going to try to soak.
Okay. So I've got a Survey Ship. We've got a lot of options. Okay, good news for me is that I do have a Patrol Mech, so I will be able to get rid of the battle station. I've also got the Recycling Station. I'm going to throw the Viper and the Scout away. I'm hoping to get something good. I do not. So I will clear the way. And now I've got 4. Nothing super great for 4 here. I can't imagine that I'll be able to extend this game long enough given what I'm up against. So now it's time to flail. And so I buy the Fed Shuttle, and I will also buy a second Embassy Yacht. I turn up the Stealth Needle. I'm already in the grave. So at this point, really, I'm doing anything that I can similar to the last game to kind of change the winds of fate here and try to turn something positive in my direction.
Sure.
Because the deck's not doing it for me.
Yeah, I think there are worse cards to come up than that Embassy Yacht for you on that flip. That's, I'm going to be very miserable if Machine Base and Recycling Station get hit with a couple Embassy Yachts. Imperial Frigate's here, and it's going to do enough damage to get rid of the Recycling Station. There's a Stealth Needle in the middle. I am going to scrap a Viper out from my hands, and we do have 4, which is enough to take it. Right here, this is a great card. It's going to copy a whole slew of cards. But more importantly, when you're going into Star Empire, I love taking Stealth Needle. Turning a card that does 1 discard into 2 cards that do 2. Really, really potent. So that's kind of a no-brainer for me. Plus, I really don't want you to have that and copy an embassy yacht to have 3 embassy yachts hitting. Like that's the exact kind of a combo you're looking for to steal this game away from me. And I do feel like I do have the edge right now.
Yeah. So now I'm in a really tough spot. So my machine base is bottom deck. I have 3 scouts, survey ship, and a blob fighter. I have to discard. If I draw the machine base, it will let me scrap something, and then it'll put me back through my shuffle. But I won't necessarily be really extracting max value because you're in a position to really bottom deck that, which would essentially defeat the purpose of buying a 7-cost ship. My authority total is dwindling here, and there's not really anything good to buy on the row. I think I need to try to come up with something to make a change here. So I've got to discard the survey ship and basically not risk bottom decking the machine base. I now have a chance to play it with perhaps embassy yachts and with my recycling station. You know that I've got that. You've got a lot of discards, so maybe that influences how you choose to play. But I'm basically, when I'm thinking about these types of games, I'm thinking, I've already lost. What can I do to not lose so fast, or to give myself a chance to pull it out? And I think that's just a realistic way to look at. As you gain more experience, you need to understand what kind of game you're playing, and you need to understand where you are in that game. That's the only way you can get any chance to influence the outcomes. So I'm in a losing situation. I'm way behind on scrap. I'm way behind on discard. I'm way behind on damage. I'm ahead on bases, but that doesn't help me if they're not there to soak the damage. So sure. I'm just trying to extend the game any way I can.
Got it. Yep, that makes sense. We do have an Imperial fighter and a survey ship. We do draw into the missile bot, which I am ecstatic for, considering I just don't want to bottom deck. I'm going to probably end up bottom decking something because I have I have 3 bases and a cutter down at the bottom of my deck here. So I'm fully aware that some of that's just not going to see 2 decks. But of all the things, I actually am very glad the missile bot is the thing that is going to pop up here to make sure I get a scrap out before I cycle the deck. If I get my deck small enough, I'm going to have 4 bases out, and it's just going to be very difficult to try to punch through them for the Mystic. We'll do some damage, and with this, we are not going to, for the same reasons we already cited, not taking Supply Bot and Explorer, we are also not going to take them again. And Survey Ship is going to hang around because the value of hitting that faction is more than the value right now of making them discard an extra card.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yep. I am thrilled that I did not discard. Let's see. I've got a Survey Ship myself. I've got the machine base as we knew. I will from my hand. Does not get me the things that I was hoping for, but it does get me the missile mech potentially. Is it the card that's going to help me? I don't think so. I mean, I've basically kind of sold my soul to the chance of winning with. But then again, you do have 3 bases, and I don't have a lot of damage, and that will 2 for 1. So I think that does make sense. Mm-hmm. Recognizing also that you've got some combination of bases and recycling station involved. I'm probably going to pop this. I don't really have the same affinity for yellow in this game, so I'm going to hopefully impair your ability to do something while giving myself a chance to perhaps see my missile base survive. Right. But if you draw either of those blue cards, that's not likely.
Right. I like that play a lot. I do draw the only 2 starters I had to draw, which does give me the ability to control this shuffle. We are going to discard up to 2 cards, and then we're only going to discard 1. If we discard 2 here, or try to force 2, it's going to shuffle this whole deck. And once again, I'm going to kind of leave these things stranded out. I'd love to see the cutter again. I don't have a problem with seeing the cutter again. So I'm just going to cycle 1 so we get all 3 bases out. That's going to get us all 3 of these bases. The cutter's going to come out as well. Now we have the option. We have the option for Space Station to try to go up to hit this Fleet HQ using the Barter World as well. We could go up to 8 there. That would be a pretty powerful play for us. The reason being, of course, that Our opponent is trying to get the damage together with Missile Mech. Missile Mech will probably have to get through one of these smaller bases first before it can get through to the Fleet HQ. Fleet HQ is going to do really well with the survey ship. It's going to do well with our starting cards. The other thing to consider for me is leaving all this out just to soak, just to get out there and soak. I think I am actually going to go for Barter World, Space Station out, and take the Fleet HQ. I think I'm feeling pretty in control. What I'm hoping though is to get this Fleet HQ tucked behind some outposts, because if I don't, then the missile mech's just going to make short work of that Fleet HQ.
Yeah, I like that play. Fleet HQ is such a conditional card. You just happen to be in one of the conditions.
right, exactly.
It's worthy of taking it, because I would say a lot of people get excited by that card. They get really into it. If you start comboing off, you throw the Stealth Needle on there, you're just going to basically wipe the floor with me. That's already what's happening. I mean, if we're honest about it, that's already what's happened.
Sure.
I don't have enough damage in hand to take out either of your bases. So I also have 8. I will buy the central office. I do not expect to play it. In the event that you have the Fleet HQ on the reshuffle, I will force you to drop one and pass the turn.
In the event, it's like you're a prophet. We do have the Fleet HQ. I'm sorry. And we're going to use it. We're going to use it to some effect here. We do have a survey ship as well. This is one of the situations the survey ship was born and bred for. The survey ship was made to be played when you have a Fleet HQ. This is part of what the value, I think, as well. Having that 3 trade up there can seem kind of steep for what you get for a lot of people. But when you have it factioning off things and hitting on the extra damage for Fleet HQ, I think it's right at home. I think that's right where it wants to be. So we do draw into a bit of an awkward spot. I did draw both my scrap cards and 1 Viper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cycle out that Viper. That's going to give me 2 starters in my discard pile that I can use both these scrappers on, so we can scrap both of those out. Giving me my faction damage as well. We're getting the extra damage for Fleet HQ. I did get a cutter as well. It's getting pretty intense, I know. This Corvette's going to operate the same way. We have a Fleet HQ. The car, as I call it over here on the right side, is going to be a pretty simple take for me. The fact that a cutter flips is just kind of ridiculous. I will take that as well. And for the Barter World, I'm just going to use the healing for 2 here. And then we will do 14 damage through, and we'll end our turn.
Okay, I mean, so again, like, winning or losing any individual games doesn't really matter. This is a steamroll at this point, so I'm just basically very quickly going to go through. I don't buy anything. I'm just basically waiting for Bax to finish the game. And and to be honest, like, this is a time where actually I will take a moment to say choosing to concede in certain contexts is actually not that bad of a play. Like, were we playing this game in a wide open thing, you versus me? I know you're an awesome player. We both are experienced. This is probably a situation where I would wipe the game, because at this point we know the outcome of the game and we're essentially playing it for instructional purposes. There's not really any gain, in my opinion, for extending this game, other than for the folks who are watching it who haven't seen Fleet HQ actually pull off.
Sure.
I'm sorry that I talked through your game, because you actually had a terrible turn there, and we should have talked about how bad that turn was, because you have the Fleet HQ out, you copy a scout with a Stealth Needle, and we missed the opportunity. I was talking through the fact that in this game you finally got 1 terrible turn. I don't think you've had any bad turns other than that, but
right.
Let's see what I get. Hey, check me out.
Hey.
From the world of nobody gives it. Okay. So I've got the...
Now, you said you wouldn't play the central office. And I said I would be worried about Embassy Yacht doing things. And now you're doing things.
No. It's important, actually, for people to recognize something about this game. If you pursue a strategy, you will get 1 turn in a given game to accomplish that strategy. Your little recipe will come together. And if you notice, look at when my little recipe comes together. My recipe is going to come together at a time when it doesn't matter, when I have to spend all of the damage that I'm about to put out on wrecking this fleet HQ. So I've had hundreds of games that have been like this, where I'm like, I get my turn. It's one of the things that's cool about Star Realms, but like, don't fool yourself into thinking that it's any more than what it is. Of course, now I will top deck the Blob Carrier. Yay! Keep that combo going. I will draw and scrap a Viper from my hand. I will play Blob Carrier. Then I will play this. I will top deck the Imperial Frigate. I will then pop a Patrol Mech, and then I will scrap another card. It looks like I'm doing a whole lot of stuff, but it's all like way too late and too irrelevant. So, yay.
So if you win this game.
Yeah. If I win this game, go on.
I guess I did not know where I was going with that. I have nothing. Nope, that's it.
If I win this game, it's because I get extremely lucky. In this particular context, both with the way the flips have come, the purchases, and the strategy that's been played, you've played a superior game, and I do not deserve to win this game. So if somehow I win it, it's pure fluke, and but I already can tell with a discard 3, I'm not going to be doing that.
So what you're saying is that if you win this game, we need to put it up on a pedestal as the example of what to always do in core set, no matter what.
No, I think what we would put this up on a pedestal is like of how to basically know where you are, to not like feel too bad about it.
Sure,
to be honest.
sure,
like,
and that's
it is what it is.
And there's actually. And speaking to that point, I think that's actually far more important than we give it credit for. I think a lot of people get pretty discouraged. I get discouraged. Like, we all get discouraged when we have losses, when we have losing streaks or something. And I think you'll find that a lot of the people who you see who are up at the top of the weekly and monthly lists, who are just grinding like crazy, they aren't moving up the list because they're winning every single game they play. They're moving up the lists because they're when they lose a game, they're queuing more. Like, they just keep going. Yeah. They keep going, right? And that's right. And that's about all you can do. I think there's a lot of people who may be predisposed to maybe get unlucky on a day. That's going to happen. It happens to all of us. But kind of turning that back around is I think the best thing you can do. Queue some more games. Just queue again. Or if you're having a really frustrating time, take a break.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I'm actually, kind of getting some damage going here, but I mean, it's all in the too late. I mean, you're still at 50, and I'm sitting here at 16. I mean, and you just bottom decked your Stealth Needle, which means you have a chance to kind of hit me again with a discard 3, which would be interesting. Yeah, at least a discard 2.
At least the discard 2. We're gonna see if we can make it. See if we can.
Yeah,
make it
I mean,
bigger.
so this is game at this point. But yeah, overkill away.
We're just gonna see. We're just gonna see if for the people. You know what I mean? For the people. Because I would expect. Because from you, I would expect this. From me, if I was on the other side of this, I would be disappointed if you didn't show me the maximum velocity of what could happen. But that is, there we go. We do copy it out. We did actually scrap out the Stealth Needle as well, just to see how much we could do.
Yeah,
Whew.
no, I think you got to do that. I mean, it's some people get a little bit upset about that, and I don't. You earned the right to do that, and the people who now, I'm not in any way, shape, or form upset about that. I will point out that I went second 3 games in a row.
Right.
I started with
yeah.
2 Vipers and 3 Scouts. I cannot think of, in a head-to-head best of 3 match in vanilla, a worse starting position to have than the one that I just played through.
Sure.
So the fact that I lost 2 games is like, I mean, if you'd asked me beforehand, hey, you're going to start like this, Dustin, what's going to happen? I'm like, oh, I'll be lucky to get the game.
Sure.
It's just a function of experience. So
right.
This was fun. And hopefully people can learn from this and, get an idea of ways to not take it so seriously. I had fun even though I was losing, but I'm also realistic about where I am. And I think that's just such an important thing, because once you know that unless something crazy happens that you can't win the game, your play will shift to accommodate creating the conditions under which you might be able to steal that game. And you were saying, so what happens if you actually win this game? And basically my play was getting more and more desperate.
Mhm.
And sometimes you got to punch your chance, and Star Realms is no different.
Right, and sometimes it works, and you feel
And
great,
sometimes it
and
works.
most
Yes.
of the time it doesn't. So
That's right.
so you have to keep that in mind when you're going for that. But yeah, thank you for doing this with me. This was super awesome, and I hope this was informative and fun for everybody else to kind of see these different perspectives. And I think we actually got all the different kind of or at least a very good sample size of the archetypes that happen in the core set, from very fortuitous purchases in trade row finagles and shenanigans to very intense close sets where decisions come down to the wire. So I'm really glad that we actually saw that whole mixed bag of different kinds of games.
Same here, and I think for people who are wondering how do you come to those decisions, we obviously talked through our thought process and how do we get to the point where that's the level of thinking that we have behind what we're doing. Part of that is just time and experience. Part of that is doing research, and Board Game Geek has a lot of great articles. The Mega Holland Strategy blog has a lot of great articles. StarRealms.com has a lot of great articles. You can immerse yourself into the strategy of this game, and you'll be surprised exactly how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Yes, because it's quite deep. Yeah. I at one point I put my foot down there. I thought I could feel the ground, and then I put a little farther, and I actually fell in. So I'm still falling. I hope you guys can tell me where the bottom is. But yeah, thanks again, Dustin, for doing this. This was really cool. Thanks for taking the time out to play this best of 3 series.
Anytime, and next time I'll win.
Next, I'll hold you to it. I got a little bit closer to making it 50%, so that's good.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Yep, see you next time.
Bye-bye.